What's going on, guys? Welcome to Ajax Reviews. Today we review Machete Joe. Directed by Sasha Krane, a group of out-of-work actors decide to take their careers into their own hands by shooting a low-budget horror film about an urban myth. With only 15 days to shoot, their egos begin to surface, but so do the dead bodies. So, Machete Joe. I'm going to take you guys back about 4 years, 5 years, maybe longer. Shit, I don't know. It was Father's Day, and my fiance brought me a gift. Now, she knows that I love horror movies and that I love slasher movies and machetes and things like this, so she purchased this movie, and she handed it to me on Father's Day and said, "Have fun with it. Let's watch it." So we did. We watched the movie, and during the entire movie, she just kept apologizing. She's like, "I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I bought this. I'm sorry I bought this." I'm like, why? This is definitely the type of movie that I would have purchased just by looking at the cover and by reading the synopsis. Like, who knew it was going to be like this? So, anytime that this movie is brought up around my house, the first thing I hear, like even if she's in another room, if I'm like talking to a friend of mine while I'm playing Xbox, I'm like, "Oh dude, you should check out this movie Machete Joe." She runs out and goes, "I'm so sorry." Like every fucking time. It's hilarious, dude. But yes, Machete Joe. I watched it with my fiance quite a few years ago on Father's Day. And, well, let's just say it wasn't a movie that I enjoyed at the time. But what do I think of it now? Let's find out.
Come on, this has got to be a joke.
Do I look like I'm joking?
So where do I start? This movie wasn't quite as bad as I remember. But that doesn't mean it was good either. I mean, the filmmakers tried. And as hard as this movie tried to succeed, it just couldn't. It didn't have the ability. But it could have. The setting worked, the effects worked, and the attempt was strong. But I did feel like I was watching this cast argue over 3/4 of this fucking movie. I mean, if a guy said his shit was brown, there was a fucking argument about it. They argued over everything.
Dan, you have become so Hollywood. What happened to breaking boundaries, huh?
I don't know a damn thing about making no movie. You know what? I had enough of this shit. Yeah, I don't even know why I'm up here in the first place.
Filmmaking, Vince, is a collaboration.
I'm doing 4 jobs for you. 4!
The acting wasn't bad, but like I said, it was mostly done like a big-ass argument. I mean, the characters had good elements to them, but they just really didn't focus on them. And the killer in this movie, he could have been awesome, but his look, his movements, and his expressions just were not believable. And his story was super cliche, and the way it was executed was just generic. And the main story, it wasn't terrible, with a lot of promise. It had a lot of potential to spawn even a few sequels. I just feel like it didn't deliver. I mean, the kills were boring, and there was no tension. The lighting in this movie could have helped them, but they didn't do anything with it. In all honesty, it looked like they shot this movie using halogen work lights. And judging from somebody who has actually used halogen work lights to film a movie, yeah, I know the way that this movie looks. That's exactly what they fucking did. Problem is, they didn't diffuse anything. The light in a lot of places was just way too fucking harsh and way too yellow. And that's what halogen lights do, especially when you have them up close. A lot of harsh light and they're really fucking yellow. They could have done a lot when it came to lighting with this to really set a mood, but they didn't. I don't know why. And the biggest letdown for me was having Ernie Hudson in this movie for only 2 fucking minutes. He didn't do anything. He didn't bring anything to the story. He didn't bring anything to the character that he played because he was only in it for 2 minutes. And honestly, it's like they only had him for 1 day because he was in a total of 3 shots. It was one at the beginning where he talks to 2 of the cast members, then 2 scenes in the car. Okay, so 4 scenes. 2 scenes in the car that looked like they were filmed back to back. and then a scene at the end that looks like it was filmed at the beginning of the movie. So it's technically he was there for 2 shots that they divided up into 4. It didn't, they could have had anybody play that part. I could have played that part. And I don't know. He didn't do anything spectacular, and I fucking love Ernie Hudson. Like, that dude's amazing. He didn't help this movie out. This movie really just didn't do anything for me, and after watching it and doing this review, I'm pretty sure I'll forget about it again. It's time to talk about the things in this movie that I liked. I liked the location. The movie takes place in a fucking castle in the desert. I mean, you can't get much cooler than that. So it's a really cool location. Some really cool shots could have happened. But they kind of didn't fuck with it. Like, I would have done some high shots, some low shots, looking up, getting shots of the castle. They really didn't. They just pretty much shot the side walls of it. Maybe that's all they had access to. I don't know. But, I mean, as a filmmaker, I would have done a little bit more with it. Another thing that I liked was the blood and the effects. Again, the kills sucked, but the blood and the effects looked pretty cool. The blood especially looked really good. The effects were good. Just the kills were shit. Now it's time to talk about the things that I didn't like. Most of the characters in the movie were just unlikable. Mostly because they were just arguing all the damn time. You couldn't get a read on any of them to save your life. It's like, this guy's talking about this, and then this person shows up, and then they start arguing with this person, and then this person walks up and says, hey, how's everybody doing tonight? And then they start arguing with him about something else. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ, man. Like, stop arguing. It just made the characters really unlikable. Another thing I didn't like, as I mentioned, was the killer and his story. Just really cliche. They could have done something else with it. They could have changed the way he looked. They could have changed his story up just a bit and made it a little bit more interesting, but they chose not to. It's like they got lazy and said, fuck it, let's just throw this out there because people buy movies and we're making movies and they're not. That's how I think they were thinking about it. Here's something that I've never brought up on this channel that I didn't like: the continuity. Typically, when it comes to continuity, I can overlook it. Like the infamous scenes in Friday the 13th where a girl's running and she has shoes on, and then she doesn't have shoes on, and then she does, and then she doesn't. Things like that I can typically overlook. But when somebody goes from having blood all over them in a torn shirt to a brand new shirt and no blood, back to having blood, back to having no blood, and then being in a different position, it just kind of fucks it up for me because it's hard to follow it when the continuity is so fucking jacked up that you can't even figure out what the hell's going on. Again, also the lighting. It didn't attempt to set any type of mood. It could have. It could have made this movie 10, 20 times better. But they just didn't try. And lastly, as I mentioned already, that Ernie Hudson was only in this movie for like 2 minutes. Now, was it actually 2 minutes? No, I didn't go and time it. But I know it wasn't more than 2 minutes. If anything, it was under 2 minutes. It was literally 4 shots. Each one lasted maybe about 30 seconds, which is why I say 2 minutes. But yeah, I was really let down that Ernie Hudson was only in this movie for a short amount of time because I've forgotten that he was in it. And then when I'm watching the movie again and I see Ernie Hudson, I'm like, oh fuck, dude, Ernie Hudson's in this. Like, okay, this is going to be better. Oh, he's gone. It kind of pissed me off. It was like, what the fuck happened to Ernie Hudson? Like, kill him, make him the killer, do something with him. Shit. So, in conclusion, would I recommend this movie? Only because it wasn't absolutely terrible, and if you're bored and you watch it, it might provide some sort of entertainment to you. But that's really all it has going for it, that it might provide some sort of entertainment. It's nothing that you're going to remember for a long time. Like, again, I watched it a few years ago and I forgot everything about it. I even forgot that Ernie Hudson was in the movie. So, I mean, the chances of you remembering this movie and you calling this your favorite movie are fucking slim, none, and hell fucking no. But, you know, I'll say I'll recommend it only because it could provide some entertainment. And with that being said, guys, I'm going to have to give it a 2 out of 5. And that's going to do it for me for today, guys. So until next time, remember, stay smart, stay clean, keep the dream. Don't let the man get you down, because if he does, he may bend you over and then argue with you until your dad shows up and then does nothing.